Welcome back, everyone, to Lakewood's First and 10 for another edition of PonyFans Live. PonyFans Live is brought to you by Lakewood's First and 10, located at the northeast corner of Mockingbird and Abrams in Dallas, and recently named by D Magazine as the best sports bar in Dallas. Also brought to you by Game Day Cloth. Love your team, love your clothes. Visit their store at the corner of Legacy and the Tollway in Plano, or check out GameDayCloth.com for the finest SMU gear anywhere. And PonyFans.com, the oldest, largest, and only free website dedicated to SMU Mustangs and Pony fans everywhere. With that said, I want you to help welcome our guest today, one of the leaders of the 2009 defense. His 135 tackles last year were the third highest total in Conference USA and tied for 13th in the nation. And he also is the only player in SMU history to recover 3 fumbles in a single game. Former linebacker Chase Kennemer. You know that?
I did not know that.
And on my right, the mastermind of the much improved 2009 defense that allowed over 10 points fewer per game than it did the year before. Defensive coordinator Tom Mason.
I don't know about mastermind.
You don't like the mastermind label for Coach Mason? All right, fair enough.
Hasn't quite made that yet.
All right, we'll start with Chase. Now, it was always obvious every day how much you enjoyed playing and to some degree even enjoyed practicing. But how much do you miss being out in the 100-degree heat going through two-a-days? And what are you doing with yourself now?
Everybody asks me that. I don't think it's really hit me yet as far as missing football. It did once whenever I was watching all the draft stuff go on, but I'm sure once I watch the guys suit up next year for one of the games, that's when it's probably going to hit me. Since football, I gave it a shot with pro day and whatnot. Didn't work out, so I applied for law school and was waitlisted all summer, and I finally decided to start working. So I'm working for my stepdad at D&M Model Leasing, so any of you Mustangs out there need a car, come see me.
And from having done two-a-days, originally at A&M, Chase signed with Texas A&M before transferring to SMU. What was the hardest part about just getting through that month-long routine of seeing your coaches and teammates all day, every day, 2 practices, living in a hotel? Other than pouring water into yourself, what was the key to getting through those things?
It just gets so repetitive. It's like every day you get up, you do the same thing over and over again. You got to look at that mustache all day long. I mean, whenever you have your breaks, I would just run back to my dorm room, I'd eat as fast as I could, go to my dorm and go to sleep, and just try and forget that Coach Mason even existed. So if I could just do that, then you can make it. You have fun with your friends, you're joking around all day together, and you have time to have fun, and then there's time to be serious. So it's just kind of a grind you have to get through, and then after that, it's all kind of downhill from there.
Okay, you went to A&M for 1 year, and then you transferred back to SMU. Why did you transfer? And your first year when you got into 11 games, but you had 14 tackles, did you ever second guess that decision to transfer back?
I didn't. I loved Texas A&M. I've got a bunch of family that went there, and it's kind of a big mess from recruiting why I went there originally. I was going to go to Harvard first and backed out last minute, so I walked on there. Kind of had an arrangement where I was supposed to get a scholarship in the spring, and it didn't work out. So SMU was the first school to offer me a scholarship, and that's where I transferred. Talked to Coach Bennett and transferred here. But have I ever regretted it? No. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better way to finish my college career than we did in Hawaii.
Some of your teammates talked about your value to the defense. Not only did you have 135 tackles last year and 12 tackles for loss, and of course you tied for the conference lead in fumble recoveries, but they also said that what really made you stand out was you knew everybody's assignment in every defensive scheme, from the nose tackles to the defensive ends to the cornerbacks. Was that something you took on by yourself, or did the coaches expect you to understand all aspects of everybody's role in the defense?
The one thing I will give Coach Mason credit to is the fact that out of all the coaches I've had, he teaches the players, far better than any other coach. What I think he should continue doing, if he isn't, is teaching the defense together, and then the big conceptual part of it, and then he breaks it down. So from my standpoint, that's exactly how I learned best. So I knew everything that everyone was doing. So I can't tell how many times in the game Jagarrett Davis would be looking at me going, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, blitz or, whatever. You got that guy in coverage. But, I have to give Coach Mason the credit on that. And, that's what I kind of decided my role was going to be, to know everything and try and direct the guys that way.
Okay, you also took off last year at the same time that you got a new linebackers coach. And for those who know Joe Herring, who's was the new linebackers coach, he is a very outspoken, colorful personality. And several of your teammates said that you had some sort of relationship that really clicked, that you guys meshed really well. What is it like to play for Joe Herring, and why did you work so well with him?
Coach Herring is the most politically incorrect person I've ever met. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks in front of your mother, in front of your pastor of your church. No matter, he just tells you how it is, and I can appreciate that. I like, I want to know how it is. I don't want to know where I stand, whether it be as an athlete, as a player, and he would tell me that. And, there's a lot of funny stories about him just from stuff that he said that I'm not going to get into, but, he's a great guy. And one thing I can tell you about him is if we lose, you don't want to see him for 72 hours? Is it about that, yeah. About how long it takes for him to get over it. No matter how good you played, if the team lost, you bump into him in the hallway and he would just rip into you for 15 minutes. Then he'd see you 5 minutes later and do the whole thing right over again. So,
last year, you were a senior on the team that finally put SMU back into a bowl game. You go to Hawaii, you whip Nevada in the Hawaii Bowl, and everyone talks about the emergence of Kyle Padron and putting up 45 points. But what often gets lost in those conversations is the fact that you held them, a very good offense, to 10 points.
Right.
And through most of the game, it looked like you might even pitch a shutout. What was the key to containing that offense? Yes, they were missing a couple of players, but you basically held them in their tracks the entire day. What was it that let you hold them in check and nearly pitch a shutout and have such a dominant performance?
We just out-schemed them. We knew what they were going to do before they did it. 80% of the time in that game, I'd say, hey, they're about to run this play. They had a couple formations that just would kind of tip off what they were doing. So on film, I can remember that the one time even now I remember this, whenever they have 3 tight ends, they run a play action. So before that play on the goal line, like on a 3rd down, I said, hey, they're running play action over here, and that's what they ended up running. So we had enough time to pretty much just map out exactly what they were going to do, and we knew their tendencies, and that's, I think that was the big difference. And the D-line really controlled the line of scrimmage. And with a great running team, if you control line of scrimmage, you can control the game, and that's what we did.
All right, I'll ask you a question that I asked Brian McCann and Mitch Enright a couple of weeks ago, which was, virtually every player who's come through SMU in the last 20 years has said, I want to be part of that class that gets the Mustangs back to a bowl game.
Right.
When did that finally sink in, and what was that like when you get off the plane and you see the palm trees and you realize you're in Hawaii for the first bowl game in 25 years?
It was amazing. I've had such a rough college career. I haven't got to play. I didn't get to play much till my last year, and to finally, have all that climax at that bowl game, it was unreal. Honestly, I still can remember exactly what it was like walking off the bus, going into the game for the last game, walking into the stadium, seeing everything. I still can remember that like it happened yesterday.
You've lost even more than the offense. There are a lot of missing faces on defense. Chris Parham's gone. You've graduated. Brian McCann, Rock Dennis, Bryce Hudman. How good can this defense be with all the young talent that's going to have to step into those roles? How good can this defense be in 2010?
They'll be fine. The younger guys that are filling in our spots are more talented than we are. For example, my spot, Taylor Reed's a way better athlete than I was. It's just going to be, I think, whether or not guys step up in the leadership roles. They have so much talent, but they have to have someone that keeps them going down the right path. I think Pete Flaps is the one that's going to take control of the defense, and if he does, there's no telling what they'll do next year.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. This is PonyFans Live. We'll be right back with defensive coordinator Tom Mason.